Hi, my name is Therese Lacson, and we are here at the Collider studio with the cast of The Man in the White Van. I am very excited to speak to this cast today, and I want to kick it off with Warren. Can you tell us about your inspiration for this film and where it sort of comes from? I know it's based off of a true story.
It is, yeah.
So,
the whole thing is really based off of real events. I'm a fan of true crime thrillers, some of the iconic, thrillers from the 70s, Jaws, Psycho, Rear Window, Hitchcock, and I basically, a producer friend of mine and his wife were out to dinner, and we were talking about a story I was working on at the time. It was a serial killer story out in Phoenix, and he basically looked at me and said, if you want to hear a really good serial killer story, you ought to talk to her. She has a first-hand account of these experiences. So we started chatting, and she unraveled and unpacked this incredible story that happened back in 1975 in Brooksville, Florida. And after a few coffee chats, I just sunk my teeth in and was like, I've got to tell this story.
Okay, so this is like a lived experience.
This is a lived experience, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a plot twist that I did not expect to have to be
based
exposed
on real
to.
events.
Yeah.
Based on true story.
So for the cast, how did you guys get involved in this project, and were you interested in the true crime genre beforehand?
Yeah, I definitely was. Something in this world, in this genre, has been on my bucket list for a very, very long time. I started acting when I was like 7. I think I booked my first job then, and my mom tells me stories of me being 7 years old and me saying, oh, my dream role is to be kidnapped. Like I always had, I know it's bizarre, but like I always had interest in the true crime genre and like playing a super dramatic, intense, heavy experience and getting to tell that story. So I remember this audition came across, it was just like any other self-tape, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it, I have to get it.
Do you remember telling me in our interview?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
I do. I told him all of this. That like one time I verbatim told my mom, or so she says, that like my dream was to like get like thrown in a trunk or in a van. Because that's like obviously not literally. You
just
guys,
actor things, okay?
But like the point is, I
acting.
really, really wanted to like get a chance to tell something this gripping and this dramatic, and I think we did that here. So yeah.
I definitely agree. Growing up, I was never like a Disney girl that watched Disney movies. I used to watch Chucky and Freddy Krueger and stuff. So I love just like any type of horror film. So when this audition came across, I was like, oh my God, I just have to. So this was really fun to work on and getting to have this experience and kind of tell the story. So I'm definitely proud of the film.
I like scary movies. I always watch scary movies with my dad, and I really enjoy them. So whenever I saw this audition, I was super excited, and I knew it was my part, and yeah. So I like doing scary movies. So it's just lots of fun to see it come together. So
I'm a huge podcast girly, so the true crime podcast like really prepared me for this role. I also really love the family aspect of this film, and while it is a thriller and has the horror, scary van, there's also a really beautiful story underlining and kind of a coming of age of Annie.
Certainly,
can add that. But so I think the whole script just has a lot of fun elements.
yeah.
I wanted to add for Gavin's sake, because I don't think he even knows this, but it was the first time I've ever been a part of a process where there was casting tapes sent in round 1, and I immediately just grabbed Gavin off of that round 1 casting tape.
It was yours.
It was Arlie and Mike, our casting directors, are awesome. Like, put the tape in front, and I was like, this is our guy, go get him. Now, go get him.
That's so awesome.
That's so
Thank
cute.
you.
Born to hold that BB gun.
That's right. Born to hold the BB gun.
That's a good quote.
Oh my God.
So Madison and Skai, I want to ask you guys had some work with horses. You guys, I mean, I love that you guys are both horse girls. This is an energy that I love. Can you tell me about prepping for that process and if you had to do any of those stunts on the horses? Because there's kind of an intense chase scene in the film.
It was really fun. I mean, growing up, ever since I was like 6 or 7, every weekend I would go with my best friend to ride horses. So this was like really, like, this is my element. So we had days where we had to train with trainers with the horses just to get comfortable, run with them. So that chase scene was really exciting but nerve-wracking at the same time. So it was really cool to be able to work with the horses.
Yeah, same. I grew up riding a little bit and like taking lessons. I love animals, love horses. So I was so ecstatic to be able to like ride a horse on set and that they let me be on it as much as possible. There were a couple things that, like, for safety reasons I couldn't do, like some of the falling off and whatnot, but everything that they allowed me to,
She did it.
we did it. We did it.
Yeah, they both did. They both are great. And I mean, and Madison, she wanted to do every single stunt she could.
I always
we had
do.
to like pry her off the horse. She was like, please.
Like, please,
And
just
we're
let me try.
I'm like, we need you for tomorrow, just in case, you know. So.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, I understand that, but also I'm glad that you didn't get injured or anything like that, because
me
I feel
too.
like it's kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
So Warren, I'm curious, you know, the film is called Man in the White Van, but obviously the film focuses a lot more on these female characters and the lead. Can you talk about the decision to sort of not really highlight this perpetrator, this man who's terrorizing all these women? You know, we never really see him at all, just sort of in silhouette. Can you talk about that decision?
Well, there's kind of two parts to it. One, we never set out to make a slasher or a gore fest of a film, and I think from a creative standpoint, theater of the mind to me is really kind of what's on point here, and something I really wanted to explore. Because I always find it a little more scary when you don't really know exactly what's going on. You know, it's and from a victim standpoint, we made the decision that we really didn't want to glorify the serial killer in this. We didn't really want to get into naming him. We didn't want to show his face. And we really just wanted to kind of tell the victim's story, and especially Annie's story in particular. And I like the unique perspective that it's really a story about her and the protagonist and the victim point of view, and it's not, you know, most serial killer stories or true crime stories out there are like about the MO of the serial killer, or it's a journalist tracking a story, or a detective trying to get their guy wrapped in a mystery. And this is really just like a raw experience of you know, this girl living in a carefree world, having no idea that her world is about to be, you know, turned upside down by this ominous white van, and just how far the lengths this guy's going to go to capture her.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, the van, at some point, if a girl is like, a man in a white van keeps following me, I would start maybe questioning it a little bit. The parents were definitely, I mean, I guess it was a different time. It was.
I mean,
it was before the podcast all came out.
Yeah, it was definitely before the podcast generation. It was before, it was before 911. It was before missing persons on milk cartons. It was a time period, you know.
Small town.
Small town. The last thing on any parent's mind really was any kind of danger. In talking with, just doing research and talking with the police department at the time, and it was a small town, one sheriff, and you know, they even said, like, I mean, our biggest fear was like getting the town drunk home on a Friday night. That was our level of crime.
And not to mention, like, Annie, especially in the beginning of the film, before she kind of has her coming of age moment, she has a tendency to exaggerate a little bit or tell a couple fibs for, you know, attention or whatever the reason. So yeah, I think between a combination of those things, busy parents, you know,
So
happens.
the little kind of like the boy who cried wolf, the girl who cried wolf in this
Right.
is certainly a little bit of a theme to it.
Definitely. So Madison, Brec, you have sort of a thrilling final segment of this film where I feel like I was watching it and it was the first time I was like, oh my God, just like I need you to run, like, just move. Can you talk about filming that final portion and the action sequences and how that whole process was?
That particular process took, 14 months of time between?
True.
We actually reshot the ending. It was
fact.
a couple night shoots, some people on roofs, some stunt doubles. It was really, I actually, that was one of my favorite nights on set, specifically the reshoot, because it was just like, we were in Florida where the movie is based for the first time, and just pairing from what we filmed 12 months prior and trying to make it a seamless transition as an actor was a really fun challenge.
Yeah, totally. And I remember the first sort of, so the first portion of that sequence, so us, like, I don't want to give too much away, but getting into the house and getting into the parents' bedroom space, that was in the original original production. And I remember, like, the first take of, like, running up the stairs and running into the bedroom, like, my heart was pumping. Like, it was
like
so
acting. It was just
it
so
was not
intense.
like, it was like, so we hyped ourselves up so much and ran so far, like, just so we could get that energy. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing was great. So intense.
Also, just
Love
having
the
someone
roof.
with, like, such high energy to work off definitely helped me. Immediately, she had, like, the tears flowing. I'm like, okay, Brec, let's go.
I mean, and that's, I think, just the gamesmanship of them, of being like so game, so ready to like take on that. I think especially with Madison, it was just something that was so it's like such a breath of fresh air to have on set, just and Brec being able to like just being ready to go. Let's jump in. Let's do this. I'm ready. And yeah, we had some weather issues when we were filming the original. There's some hurricane stuff going on, so we weren't able to finish the production, the film, the way we wanted to. So we basically decided to cut the film and come back and shoot the ending at a later date. So that's kind of how we got to that.
But I love that commitment. Y'all wanted to get the best ending, the best film out there. And so when y'all reached out about reshoots, I was like, they're doing everything to make this the best movie possible, which is awesome to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, that final scene, I have to say, especially like when you're at the door and I'm like, oh my God, please. And the door opens.
It gives me chills just thinking about it.
It's like, close the door and run.
Don't go in that room. What are you doing?
That was me screaming at the screen. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. So let's talk about working with Ali Larter and Sean Astin. I mean, those are just two really pretty big names in the industry. Let's just say that. As young actors, did you guys get any advice from them? How was that experience working with them?
Just watching them act is super cool, and it makes you learn a lot from just watching and seeing how they do it. I mean, yeah, it's just super cool to watch.
Yeah, I think, first of all, just hearing Ali's stories of, like, her amazing career, being, like, a woman growing up in the industry was super cool. One thing that I remember being a huge takeaway from both of them, but particularly Ali, is, like, always having a voice if, there's time to be like, oh, hey, I had this idea. Or like, oh, can I try it this way? Or like asking those questions, giving those suggestions. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And it's like, if an idea comes in the moment, to like ask like, oh, hey, do we have time to do this? Or like, so that was pretty cool. Which
is usually a director's, that's great when you have like talent who wants to like bring something to the table until you don't have time. And then you're like, okay, oh, no. We got to move on. We got to move.
I mean, when you have time, I feel like it's normally when I hear those stories, I'm like, oh wow, like I never would have thought that was like.
I've finally come to realize, like, I don't know anybody on any set whoever's like, no, we just had all the time in the world.
Yeah, right. It doesn't exist ever.
Except I will say, Sean was talking about filming Lord of the Rings, and he was talking about
$1 budget.
With like, right. They were like, oh, we did one page or half a page a day, and I was just like, oh my God, to be in that world, to have that luxury,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a luxury even to hear about him filming Lord of the Rings. I feel like that was many story times, I'm sure.
Well, he's such a, cinematic legend and a dad.
He is. Like such a storyteller.
Yeah, he has so many stories to tell. It's awesome.
It was great. I mean, especially for you guys, I think, because I was like working with the cinematographer, trying to get everything set up, working with them and everything. I kind of leave them for a bit, and I come back, and Sean is just holding court, telling the story about the good old days of making Lord of the Rings.
Naturally.
It was fun.
Okay, well, that sounds amazing. I probably need to be in a film with him now. If you ever need a sequel, somebody for a sequel, I'll be there. So, just a couple closing questions. I'm curious, if you are into true crime, is there one mystery or cold case that you need an answer to? If somebody could come down and be like, this is who did this.
Well, I just want to jump in and say that the serial killer in our story, they are working right now, 44 years later, they're working cold cases right now in Florida and California, like 5 different counties. They believe he's responsible for many more victims out there. It's really creepy. I have ongoing conversations with the detectives. So, the one thing that they have actually said to me in terms of being able to spread any kind of word out there is if there's anybody that's out there that has a missing family relative, to like go get their DNA and like ancestry.com or whatever, because they pull from that. And just last year, they were able to identify one of the Jane Does in our story who was buried on the property in Weeki Wachee, Florida. And they were able to identify her and find closure for her sister, who's like in her 60s now. Wow. So that was kind of a special story.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's how they caught Golden State Killer, too, I think, right?
Yeah. By the way, amazing film, or TV series, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, HBO.
You don't need to tell me about that. I cry every time I think about that.
I was obsessed with the show called Missing on Netflix about just people that just go missing and they still to this day don't know what happened to them. And just really crazy to think about that. Somebody could really be here one day and then just gone and you just don't know where they're at. So I'm definitely a true crime girl. Like I love those type of documentaries. So I'm always on that type of time.
There's a podcast called Be Heard about this boy, Damien Heard, who there's a lot of questions around what happened to him, and I have some personal ties to him and his family, so that one is very close to my heart.
I mean, that's kind of sad now that I think about it. I hope they
It's a
figure
wonderful
out.
podcast, and I highly recommend listening to it if you like true crime. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll check it out then. And finally, since we're at Comic-Con, I just have a general question. If you could walk on the floor and sort of be amongst the people, what is like a costume or cosplay that you would love to dress as?
For me, probably Joker. I feel like it's just simple.
That's such a good one.
It's simple. It's straight to the point. You know exactly who he is. It's not doing too much, and he's like crazy guy. So definitely Joker.
Okay. I saw someone yesterday with one of those giant T-Rex costumes on, and it's like my bucket list to wear one of those. I just want to be Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I didn't even say it right, but yeah.
I like literally don't know. Like I have no idea.
That's very fair.
I just want to this is my first time at Comic-Con, so I would love to just walk in no costume and like see things.
I don't know. I kind of wonder what I might look like in a Stargirl costume.
I didn't want to say it.
I love that one. Answer that. Come on.
I also do not have an answer to that. I would have to really think really hard about that. I don't know.
Well, I'll let you guys think on that. Until then, I want to thank you guys for speaking with me. It's been such a pleasure, and I hope everyone goes to catch The Man in the White Van. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.